Hello. Today I'm speaking with Hannah Ubl, generational expert at Bridgeworks. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you.
Tell us, what is a generational expert and why are they needed in today's environment?
That is an excellent question. So a generational expert is what we call ourselves at our company, and we basically have been studying this topic, generations, and how they play out in the workplace, how they play out in the marketplace. We've been studying them for about 16 years. So it means that we just know the generations topic very, very narrow and very, very deeply. And so we know what makes a boomer, an Xer, and then how can we help them bridge gaps in the workplace and the marketplace. And it's crucial to really know about these differences because the corporate world and organizations are changing so rapidly that the companies who get ahead, the employees who get ahead, are the ones who can understand each other and build strong relationships. And we find that approaching that through a generational lens is one of the best ways to do that, because that's a beginning of how you can build strong relationships with people.
I would guess that communications is one of the key issues. How do communications differ, the way people communicate in these three generations?
So each generation has a very different way that they like to communicate. So boomers are very, very formal, usually. They're, yes, exactly. They have more of that formal and informal blend. Xers, the way that they communicate is they are very direct and they're very honest. So they don't like fluff, they don't like cushioning, criticism, so they're very direct and to the point. And then millennials are usually pretty informal. This is the generation that uses a lot of slang in the office, and to some other generations it might feel too informal, like we're not just buddy-buddy, we're also professional coworkers. So there are all these different ways that we prefer to communicate.
And how do companies address that? I mean, should companies have a code about how to communicate?
Well, you know, it really depends on the company. It depends on the culture. And the best way to really find ways to communicate is to see what you like to communicate with, what is the standard in the company. And it's about having open conversations with your coworkers.
What about motivation? How do you motivate these three different generations?
Those are also very different for each generation. This is actually something we hear about a lot, and it's because, you know, that motivation factor was really built on rewards or bonuses, or is it time off? And for boomers, for example, we find that they're really motivated by doing work that matters, where they can have an impact. This is a very optimistic and idealistic generation, so we've done a lot of work with boomers, and they still want to have an impact on their company and on the people around them. We find Xers are motivated by something a little bit different. They want growth and opportunity and career development that's rapid and changing constantly. And millennials, they're really motivated by work that has meaning, where they can really make a difference. They're kind of like their boomer parents a little bit. They adopted that from them, but they're constantly looking for ways that they can make a difference in a company, or they want to work for a company that makes a huge difference on the world. So we all have these different motivation factors at work.
So for a company that has a mix of employees, do they have to kind of approach all of these differently?
Yes, I mean, it's just being knowledgeable that there are different motivation factors, and that's really where it comes from management and leadership, to meet with their individual employees and understand what motivates them. But we see lots of programs that, you know, sometimes you can choose your own reward, whether that be time off, whether that be a bonus, and it's sometimes just about engagement factors. So if you're seeing that maybe a millennial is not feeling very motivated by those different kinds of rewards at the moment, sit down and have a conversation with them. So there are different ways to approach it, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. What happens when, and I'm sure we have a lot of instances in the workplace now, where you have millennials who are reporting to Xers?
Yes.
How does that play out?
Millennials and Xers are usually the most different generations in the workplace right now, and the same thing happened when Xers came into the workplace with boomers, of course, but we are seeing a lot of Xers managing millennials, and the biggest difference that we're seeing is, I mentioned that Xers are very direct and honest and to the point, and they're usually managing millennials, and millennials grew up during the self-esteem movement, so there's a big collision that comes into play here, especially when giving feedback. And so you know, they'll just deliver that negative or critical feedback right away to the point, and that usually doesn't work so well with millennials, and some Xers have probably felt the heat of that. So it takes both sides working on it. It takes millennials building up that wall and building some thicker skin, and it takes Xers, you know, creating a roadmap, having millennials do their own self-evaluations first. So there's different ways to approach it, but they're very different generations in the workplace right now.
So what is the best thing that leaders can do for the younger generation coming up in the pipeline of their companies?
There's a lot of things that they can do. I'd say one of the best things is to give them opportunities to lead and to help them learn how to manage other generations. You know, millennials are showing up at work right now and they don't know a lot of rules in the workplace, and a lot of them, because the way companies are changing so rapidly, a lot of them are managing up and they don't understand how boomers communicate or like to be motivated. They don't understand how Xers communicate or like to be motivated. So the best thing that leaders can do for millennials right now is just look into the future. How can they prepare them? How can they make sure that they're going down a path to success?
Is there any good research that you could share with us on this generation that's coming up?
Yes, actually. So the generation after millennials is called Generation Edge. I'm actually the head researcher on that project right now. So I get to talk to lots of high school students and I get to talk to a lot of teachers and a lot of parents. And I will tell you they are going to be very different than millennials. We are seeing that, you know, we like to say that, or many people really like to say that millennials are the participation trophy generation. And of course, that's definitely true. As a millennial, I can say I have about 9 sixth-place trophies, right? But this generation, they aren't happy with the participation award, and they are very, very competitive. Their competitiveness actually rivals that of the boomers, who are also a very competitive generation, so we're seeing that about them. And also, they use technology in such a different way, even than me as a millennial. I mean, I think I'm tech savvy, and then I look at these kids, and I'm like, I know nothing. I am an idiot. So it's just fun to see how they use technology, because they use it in such a resourceful way. They just do it to get things done. So they're very, very quick, and their brain actually is developing differently than other generations. So they can switch tasks faster, and some scientists at Harvard are saying they'll have higher IQs, which of course as a millennial is terrifying, but you know, it's exciting to see the differences that I think they're going to bring into the workplace.
That's the first time I've heard that phrase, the Edge generation.
Yes, it is new, and so if anyone wants to share this name, it's really the person who decides what the next generation is going to be called is usually, you know, Fortune magazine or Forbes or Fast Company, so it's whatever one picks up this generation name first. But we like Generation Edge because we believe that this generation has an edge. They've seen a lot growing up and they've been exposed to so much because of technology and social media, so we like Generation Edge more than the other names out there.
So having had a lot of dealings with these younger generations, are you optimistic in general?
I am. I mean, I think that that's part of being a millennial. We tend to skew more towards the optimistic side, but I also just think that it's the best way to approach the future. You know, it's actually something I'll say that's really different about this next generation. It's interesting you asked that, is when we used to talk, I mean, this company's been around for a long time, and when they talked to boomers or Xers about the next generation coming in, it was always, oh, I mean, do we really want them? They're going to be so difficult to work with. And when we talk to people now about this next generation, it's almost like they're sad. It's like, I can't believe that they've grown up with these kinds of differences. I hope that they can bring some change to the world. So I am optimistic. I think that everyone's always ready for change, and I think that they're going to bring a positive change, and it's kind of cool because we have no idea what that will actually be yet. But yeah, I skew towards optimism, I would say.
Well, it's a fascinating subject. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Hannah Ubl, a generational expert at Bridgeworks. Thank you for watching.